Alright guys, I'm back, and I changed out the sprocket, which a little tough. Put a 20 tooth on here. So I had to adjust this bar, and I don't know if you can tell, but you can see up in the hole there, it's run itself almost all the way through. So we shortened it up quite a bit to get this chain to work. I could have went a longer chain, but I thought if I can use it, I will. So I recommend when you're moving this to take you two adjustables or a wrench to fit that in an adjustable, and lay the adjustable right across here to hold one side of it. This is the one that's usually the one that breaks because it's got more flop to it, and then you can turn it. If it's thread, if the threads are real loose and it works fine, then you can do a finger. Don't worry about that. But mine had gotten up in here was a little dirt, so I have gotten it adjusted now, and you may notice my scratches where it was, and because I had to beat around on that pulley to get it on, so sprocket. So I haven't tightened this up yet, but this is where I want it, and this is about the kind of chain movements you want. That way the sprockets have room to breathe, nothing's in a strain, nothing's too tight. You don't get the chain in a bind and try to pull a link out of it. That's what you're wanting as far as your tightness of your chain. While we're under here, I'm going to show you a couple other things y'all might want to look at when you're doing some preventive maintenance on your car. One thing is these things right here, they go, oh Lordy, hang on. They go to your cradle. And you got one on each side, and they're called torque rods. And they have a shock bushing in there, which is rubber. And what they do is they take the strain of pulling out or letting off. A lot of times these things will wire out, and then you'll start getting cradle movement, and you'll start getting that jerk from, or that inertia from one side to the other on your driving. Like when you take off or let up, when you take off, it wants to pull to the right, and when you let off, it wants to pull to the left. So, especially with a bigger motor, it's more evident. On the old, the old 9 horsepower is really not all that evident. But if you're puttering along about 45 and you let off, you will notice it if those are worn. So you can check those, and if they are, you can use neoprene bushings. I found that the ones for a 94 Ford Ranger front sway bar work pretty good. Another thing you might want to look at, make sure, is you want to check for cracks. Now that looks like it may be a crack right there. So you want to look for that, because if you're going to a bigger motor, it's going to have more strain right here, because this is your pivot point. Sorry, let me get out of the way. That's your pivot point. The later models are a little different, but the early models look like this. So they have this little strap welded here and on the other side, and it's just welded to these beams. These beams right here are actually the frame material, and they've just took two and turned them across each other and welded them. So I will weld this and make sure it's safe, because mine broke, and I did some reinforcement in there, because I still run a cradle even with that Geo motor, and I just found it worked better. So you need to keep just when they get these things out of a field, or where they've been laying forever, and no one ever did a lot of maintenance on them. They just drove them or played with them or shot at them or beat them all around like a little toy and never did any maintenance on them. So when we want to get them out and ride them on the road, and things happen. So you want to try to fix everything you can so that it's safe to drive, especially if you go with a larger engine. But, you know, check that. Your bushings never wear out. They just don't. But check for cracks. Check your torque rods. The best way to check your torque rod is get a hold of the back of the car and move it side to side and see if you got a lot of movement and your wheels being still. You'll have a little bit, but you won't have a lot. But if you have a lot, then that might mean you have some torque rod issues. So anyway, I'm going to tighten these back up, and I won't be able to test drive today. It's raining, but hopefully tomorrow, and maybe do another video that way. Anyway, take care. Have a good one.